Commander Zarkat's forearms trembled slightly as he stood before the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. He had fought in wars across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. He had seen entire planets fall. He had led soldiers into battles where victory seemed impossible, yet they had prevailed. But today, facing these politicians and bureaucrats, he felt a different kind of fear. The council chamber stretched out before him like a vast bowl. 127 different alien species were represented here, their seats arranged in ascending rings. Some counselors floated in tanks of liquid. Others required special atmospheric chambers. Many looked almost like him, bipedal or quadrupedal, with recognizable limbs and sensory organs. All of them watched him with expressions ranging from boredom to mild curiosity. "You may present your findings, Commander," said High Counselor Nexblix. Her translucent body pulsed with blue light as she spoke. Zarkat touched the control panel at his wrist. A 3-dimensional image of a blue-green planet appeared in the center of the chamber. "This is Earth," he said. His translator converted, his clicks and whistles into the standard galactic language. "Home to a species called humans. They have not yet achieved faster-than-light travel, but their technological progress is accelerating rapidly." Several counselors yawned or made their species-equivalent gestures of disinterest. Pre-FTL species were hardly worth the council's attention. "I have spent the last 5 cycles studying this species," Zarkat continued. "My findings suggest that our standard approach to incorporation would be unwise." This caught the attention of Counselor Vexatil of the Centaurian Federation. His scaled head tilted forward. "Unwise. The hegemony has incorporated over 300 pre-FTL species into our collective. The protocols are well established." Zarkat clicked his mandibles nervously. "The humans are different. Their history is unlike any species we have encountered. They have spent their entire existence fighting." He projected new images, humans in various forms of armor and uniform throughout their history, weapons that evolved from simple spears to complex projectile devices, battlefields across different terrains. While most species develop warfare as a necessity and then move beyond it, humans have refined it into an art form. They fight when victory is impossible. They continue when logic dictates surrender. They have concepts alien to most council races, such as, asked Nexblix, a hint of actual interest in her voice, revenge, spite, martyrdom. Zarkat's upper arms gestured to emphasize each word. "They will sacrifice themselves not for the greater good, but to inflict harm on an enemy they know they cannot defeat." Their military history is filled with examples of the few standing against the many, often prevailing against all odds. High Administrator Nulith waved a tentacle dismissively. "Commander, with respect to your distinguished service record, this sounds like the exaggeration of a soldier who has seen too much combat. All species fight fiercely to defend their homeworlds." "Not like this," Zarkat insisted. He projected a new series of images, human military training exercises. "Look at how they train. They deliberately subject themselves to conditions of extreme discomfort and stress. They simulate their own deaths thousands of times before ever entering real combat." Counselor Vextil leaned forward. "Commander, the incorporation of Earth has already been scheduled. The hegemony has allocated resources. Subjugation protocols are standard, demonstrate overwhelming force, neutralize military capabilities, establish puppet governance." "What exactly are you proposing?" Zarkat's 4 fists clenched. "I propose we leave them alone. Or if contact is deemed necessary, we approach them as equals, not subjects to be conquered." A ripple of amusement spread through the chamber. A pre-FTL species treated as equals? The idea was absurd. "If we must incorporate them," Zarkat continued desperately, "then at minimum we should adjust our calculations for resistance. Standard protocol assumes 1 hegemony soldier is sufficient to subdue approximately 100,000 natives of a pre-FTL world. For Earth, I recommend a force at least 50 times that size." Now the amusement turned to concern, but not the kind Zarkat had hoped for. Counselors exchanged glances, some tapping notes into their personal devices. Nextblix's blue glow pulsed more rapidly. Commander, the resource implications of what you're suggesting are enormous. The hegemony budget for Earth's incorporation is already finalized. The costs of underestimating them will be far greater, Zarkat said. I believe your experiences in the Proxima conflict have colored your judgment, said Nulith. You lost many soldiers there. It is natural to become cautious after such events. Zarkat's mandibles clicked in frustration. This has nothing to do with Proxima. The data speaks for itself. Humans are not like the Jexar or the Paluxians or any other species we've incorporated. They are dangerous in ways we barely understand. Thank you, Commander, Nextblix said firmly. The Council will deliberate on your concerns. But Zarkat could already see the outcome in their body language. His warning would be noted, filed away, and ignored. The machinery of the hegemony was already in motion. As Zarkat turned to leave the chamber, the image of Earth still rotating in the holographic display behind him, a new figure entered through a side door. 2 hegemony guards escorted a being Zarkat immediately recognized as human. The human male wore a tattered uniform with patches and insignia Zarkat had studied. The human's eyes met Zarkat's for a brief moment. There was no fear there, despite the fact that this human was clearly a prisoner. Instead, Zarkat saw calculation and a strange, smoldering quality he had come to recognize from his studies. Defiance. Who is that? Zarkat asked one of the guards. Prisoner captured during an unauthorized incursion into hegemony space, the guard replied. Designation, Lieutenant Richard Gomez, United States Space Force. He's been providing intelligence on human military capabilities. Willingly? Zarkat asked. The guard made the hegemony gesture for amusement. Of course not, but he will. As Zarkat watched the human being led away, he felt a cold certainty. The Council would proceed with their plans. Standard subjugation. Protocols would be implemented, and it would be a disaster. 6 months later, his fears would be proven correct in ways even he had not imagined. In a holding cell deep within the Council's headquarters station, Lieutenant Rick Gomez stared at the ceiling. He had been answering their questions selectively, giving away just enough to seem cooperative without revealing anything truly important. They thought humans were primitive because they hadn't mastered faster-than-light travel. They thought humans would break easily under pressure. They were wrong. Rick closed his eyes and continued counting the days. Rescue wasn't coming. He knew that. Earth didn't even know aliens existed yet. But soon, they would. And when they did, these aliens would learn what humans were really capable of. 6 months passed quickly for the hegemony as they prepared their invasion force. For Lieutenant Rick Gomez locked in his cell, time crawled. He exercised daily, maintaining his strength. He studied the aliens, learning their language by listening to the guards. They never suspected he understood them. That was their first mistake. Admiral Ken Voss stood on the bridge of the hegemony command ship as it entered Earth's solar system. His elongated head held 3 eyes, all focused on the tactical display. 17 planetary incorporations under his command, and not one failure. This mission would be no different. All ships report ready, Admiral, said his second-in-command. Standard subjugation formation. Proceed, Ken Voss said. Remember, this is a pre-FTL species. Minimal force. We want to preserve infrastructure. The fleet moved toward Earth. 20 large warships and 50 smaller vessels. Enough to subdue a planet 10 times Earth size according to standard calculations. On Earth, Major Lisa Harper woke to blaring alarms. She jumped from her bed in the underground military facility and rushed to the command center. Screens showed strange objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Status report, she demanded. Multiple unknown craft in orbit, Major, said a young soldier. At the communications station. They're not ours, not Russian, not Chinese, they're not from Earth. Lisa's training kicked in, pushing aside her shock. Global communications? Down across most continents. The objects are emitting some kind of interference. Casualties. Reports of precise strikes on military installations worldwide. Minimal civilian casualties so far, Lisa nodded grimly. They're being careful. They want something from us. The base commander entered, his face pale. Major Harper, I'm activating your Special Forces unit. We've detected what appears to be a forward command post being established in the Rocky Mountains. My team will be ready in 30 minutes, sir. As she left to prepare her soldiers, Lisa didn't know she was about to become part of humanity's first interstellar war. Admiral Ken Voss watched with satisfaction as the first wave of ground forces landed on Earth. 5,000 elite troops, equipped with energy weapons and personal shields, 1 soldier for every 1,000,000 humans, more than enough according to all previous incorporations. Sir, his tactical officer called, we're receiving strange reports from Ground Team 7 in a region called Afghanistan. What kind of reports? They claim the natives are using primitive projectile weapons, but in unusual ways, firing from multiple directions simultaneously, overwhelming shield capacities. Ken Voss dismissed this with a wave. Isolated resistance. It will be crushed quickly. But 3 hours later, reports from across the planet showed a disturbing pattern. Ground Team 3 in a place called Texas had lost contact completely. Ground Team 12 in Finland reported being surrounded by natives using simple ambush tactics that should not have been effective against superior hegemony technology. This is not possible, Ken Voss muttered. He opened a channel to his ground. Commander, Colonel Yexpol, what is happening down there? The colonel's voice came through filled with static. Admiral, these humans, they don't fight like other species. They should be surrendering when faced with our technology. But they're adapting quickly. They've already figured out that slow-moving objects can penetrate our shields. They're using primitive weapons, bows, thrown spears, things we didn't even consider threats. Hold your position. Reinforcements are coming. In the Rocky Mountains, Major Lisa Harper led her team through dense forest. Their target was a strange structure that had appeared overnight, glowing with lights no human technology could produce. Satellite imagery had been impossible due to some kind of interference field. Movement ahead, whispered her point man, Sergeant Alan Rodriguez. Lisa signaled the team to take cover. Through her binoculars, she saw them, beings not from Earth. They stood taller than humans with 4 arms and insect-like heads. They wore armor that seemed to shimmer slightly. Those are definitely not humans, Alan whispered. No, they're not, Lisa agreed. But they bleed just like us. Remember your training. Observe, report, engage, only if necessary. For 3 days, Lisa's team watched the alien base. They observed patrol patterns and gathered intelligence. They saw the aliens struggle to breathe in Earth's atmosphere, often returning to their ships or using breathing devices. On the 4th day, Lisa's radio crackled with an encrypted message from command. Major Harper, status report. Sir, we have confirmed alien presence. They appear to be establishing a command center. Their technology is far beyond ours, but we've identified potential weaknesses. New orders, Major. A prisoner has escaped from these aliens. He was held off-world for months. His name is Lieutenant Richard Gomez. He's believed to be heading to your location with critical intelligence. Find him and bring him in. Lisa acknowledged the order, wondering how a human soldier had been in space months before the invasion began. Across the planet, humanity began to fight back. In every country, soldiers and civilians alike discovered that while alien shields stopped bullets, they could be overwhelmed by concentrated fire. Naval Captain Noah Williams, commanding the submarine USS Barracuda deep under the Pacific Ocean, remained undetected by alien sensors. His vessel, along with others hidden beneath the waves, preserved a crucial nuclear deterrent the invaders hadn't accounted for. On the Hegemony command ship, Admiral Ken Voss faced a shocking reality. 3 days into what should have been a routine subjugation, nearly 40% of his initial landing force was unaccounted for. This is unprecedented, he told his officers. We must adjust our approach. Sir, his communications officer, interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from Commander Zarkat. Ken Voss frowned. Put him through. Zarkat's face appeared on the screen. Admiral, I've been monitoring your operation. You need to withdraw immediately. That is not an option. Commander, the Council has ordered Earth's incorporation. The Council doesn't understand what you're facing. I tried to warn them. These humans, they're unlike any species we've encountered. We have superior technology, superior numbers. Numbers mean nothing if you don't understand their tactics, Zarkat interrupted. Request permission to join your command staff. I've studied them. I can help minimize your losses. Kenvos hesitated, his pride warring with practicality. Finally, he nodded. Permission granted, but this operation will continue. As the transmission ended, Kenvos did not know that deep in the mountains below, Lieutenant Rick Gomez was meeting with Major Lisa Harper, sharing everything he had learned during his captivity. The humans were organizing, adapting, preparing to take the fight back to the stars. And the hegemony was not ready for what was coming. Rick Gomez sat across from Major Lisa Harper in the small cave they were using as a temporary base. The rest of her team kept watch outside. A small fire gave them just enough light to see each other's faces. So you've been in space, Lisa said, still trying to process everything the lieutenant had told her. Captured during a classified mission 6 months ago. Rick nodded, his face thin from his months in captivity. My crew and I were testing a new deep space vehicle. We got farther than anyone expected. That's when they found us. And they took you to their council? Yes. They questioned me for months, wanted to know about Earth's defenses, our military capabilities. Rick's eyes narrowed. I fed them just enough information to keep them from using their more extreme methods, but nothing that would actually help them. Lisa leaned forward. What did you learn about them? They call themselves the hegemony. They've conquered hundreds of planets, but they've never faced humans before. Rick's expression turned grim. They have rules about how they fight, rules that make sense when you're fighting other aliens who think like they do. But those rules don't work against us. What kind of rules? They don't like to destroy infrastructure. They won't target civilians intentionally. They expect enemies to surrender when faced with overwhelming technological superiority. He smiled thinly. They have no concept of guerrilla warfare. That's why they're struggling, Lisa said, understanding dawning. Their strategy depends on enemies behaving, logically. Exactly, and there's something else. Rick tapped his chest. They evolved on worlds with much less oxygen than Earth. Our atmosphere is like breathing pure oxygen for them. It makes them stronger at first, but they tire quickly. They can only fight effectively for about 3 hours before needing to return to their ships or use breathing equipment. Lisa's mind raced with the tactical implications. That's why their patrols are so predictable. They're rotating troops constantly. Yes, and there's one more thing. I think I know how we can communicate with other resistance groups globally. Commander Zarkat arrived on Admiral Kenvos's command ship 1 day later. The Admiral did not greet him personally, a slight that Zarkat ignored. There were more important matters at hand. Show me the current deployment, Zarkat demanded as soon as he entered the command center. A junior officer displayed a holographic map of Earth with hegemony troop positions marked in red. The map was troubling. Their forces were clustered in urban centers, but large parts of the planet remained uncontrolled. This is not good, Zarkat said. Your forces are too concentrated. Admiral Kenvos entered, his 3 eyes narrowed with irritation. Our strategy is sound. We hold the population centers. The rest will follow. That strategy works for species that surrender once their capitals fall, Zarkat replied. Humans don't think that way. By leaving the rural areas uncontrolled, you've given them space to organize resistance. We don't have enough troops to control every part of the planet, Kenvos snapped. Exactly my point. I warned the Council this species would require far more resources than standard. Zarkat moved closer to the map. And here, why are your ships maintaining such high orbits? We lost 2 vessels to primitive nuclear weapons that were launched from underwater vessels. We couldn't detect them until it was too late. Zarkat's mandibles clicked in what humans might recognize as an "I told you so" gesture. They're adaptable, far more than you expected. In the following days, Zarkat's warnings proved even more accurate. Human resistance didn't diminish. It grew stronger and more organized. They used old radio technology that the hegemony had dismissed as obsolete. They communicated using codes that changed daily. They struck at supply lines rather than confronting hegemony forces directly. 1 month after the invasion began, Captain Noah Williams' submarine surfaced briefly in a remote cove on the coast of New Zealand. There, his crew met with soldiers from 5 different nations who had brought crucial intelligence. "The aliens have established their main base here," said a soldier, pointing to a map. "In what used to be Colorado Springs, they've converted the old military facility into their headquarters." "My team observed it for weeks," said Major Harper, who had traveled across the world to attend this meeting. "Lieutenant Gomez helped us understand their security protocols." Rick Gomez, now officially assigned to Harper's Special Forces team, added, "Their shields are effective against high-velocity projectiles, but can be overwhelmed by concentrated fire or penetrated by slower objects. And they're vulnerable to our atmosphere," Captain Williams noted. "Their combat effectiveness decreases after about 3 hours." "Exactly," Rick said. "We need to coordinate our attacks globally, force them to keep their troops deployed beyond their normal rotation schedules." The plan they developed was simple, but required precise timing. Around the world, resistance fighters would launch simultaneous attacks on hegemony positions, not to defeat them, but to keep them engaged, to prevent them from rotating their troops, to exhaust them in Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere. Meanwhile, a special team led by Major Harper would infiltrate the main alien base with a specific target: their communications array. Lieutenant Gomez had learned that the hegemony relied heavily on constant communication with their ships. Without it, their coordination would collapse. On the hegemony command ship, Commander Zarkat watched the human attacks begin with a mixture of professional admiration and dread. The simultaneous nature of the assaults across the globe could not be coincidence. "They're coordinating," he told Admiral Ken Voss. "Somehow they've established a global communication network we haven't detected." "Impossible," the Admiral insisted. "We've neutralized all their satellite communications. Then they're using something else, something we overlooked." The attacks continued for hours longer than any previous human resistance effort. Hegemony field commanders reported their troops were being engaged continuously, prevented from returning to their ships for atmospheric relief. "They've identified our weakness," Zarkat said grimly. "They're deliberately extending the fights to exhaust our soldiers." Just as he finished speaking, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the tactical display, a red warning flashed over the main Earth base. "Communications lost with headquarters," an officer reported. "They're under heavy attack." Inside the alien headquarters, Major Harper led her team through the chaos. They had breached the perimeter during the confusion of the coordinated global assault. Lieutenant Gomez moved ahead, guiding them through corridors he recognized from his time as a prisoner. "This way," he whispered. "The communications hub should be through these doors." They planted their explosives carefully. They wouldn't get a second chance. When they were clear, Lisa gave the signal. The explosion ripped through the alien facility, destroying their primary link to the orbiting fleet. As alarms wailed around them, Lisa's team fought their way back out. They lost 2 soldiers in the process, but the mission was accomplished. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had dealt the aliens a significant blow. And in orbit above Earth, Commander Zarkat watched the situation deteriorate with grim vindication. Everything he had warned about was coming true. The humans were not behaving like any species the hegemony had encountered before. They were not surrendering. They were learning, adapting, and fighting back with increasing effectiveness. The war for Earth was just beginning. 3 months after the invasion began, Earth had changed. Cities showed scars of battle. Alien ships hung in the sky, visible on clear days. People who once worried about jobs and bills now worried about survival. But humans were not defeated. Not even close. Major Lisa Harper stood on a hill overlooking what had once been Denver. Parts of the city glowed with alien lights. Hegemony forces controlled the center, but they rarely ventured into the surrounding areas anymore. "They're stuck," said Lieutenant Rick Gomez, standing beside her. "They hold the cities but can't expand their control." Lisa nodded. "Our strategy is working. We hit them, then disappear. They waste resources trying to find us. But we're still fighting with sticks against their technology, Rick said. We need to even the odds. That's why we're here. Lisa pointed to a complex of buildings on the city's edge. Intelligence says they're storing captured human weapons there, modifying them with their technology. Rick studied the facility through binoculars. Heavy security. Getting in won't be easy. That's why we have help. Behind them, 30 soldiers waited. They wore no matching uniforms. Some were American, others Russian, Chinese, British, Nigerian. The alien invasion had united humanity in ways nothing else could. Commander Zarkat stood before the Inner Council, a group of 12 senior representatives who could make decisions without consulting the full Galactic Council. He had finally secured this emergency session after weeks of requests. Esteemed counselors, he began, I must report that the Earth Incorporation is failing. 3 months into what should have been a 2-week operation, we control less than 30% of the planet's surface. Counselor Vextil sneered. Your pessimism is noted, Commander. Admiral Kenvas reports progress is being made. With respect, Counselor, Admiral Kenvas is lying. Zarkat projected images into the center of the chamber. These are from yesterday. Hegemony troops retreating from human counterattacks. Supply ships destroyed, captives being taken. Taken? High Counselor Nex Blix leaned forward, her blue glow pulsing rapidly. Hegemony soldiers are under strict orders to self-terminate rather than be captured. Yet the humans have captured hundreds. They've learned our language, our technology, our tactics. Zarkat clicked his mandibles in frustration. I warned this would happen. What exactly are you suggesting, Commander? Asked Nulith. We have 2 options. Withdraw completely from Earth, or commit 10 times our current forces and accept casualties on a scale the hegemony has never experienced. The chamber fell silent. The hegemony had not suffered a defeat in over 10,000 years. Show us, Nexblix finally said. Show us what makes these humans so different. Zarkat nodded and played the recordings he had prepared. The council watched in silence as scenes of human combat filled the chamber. They saw a human soldier throw himself on an explosive device to save his companions. They saw medics run into active fire zones to help wounded comrades. They saw fighters continue battling despite severe injuries. This species does not calculate acceptable losses the way we do, Zarkat explained. They have concepts like sacrifice and last stands that they celebrate in their culture. When 1 human dies fighting us, 10 more join the resistance. He showed them more footage. Humans adapting hegemony weapons for their own use, setting complex traps using simple technology, communicating using methods the aliens had overlooked. For every hegemony soldier killed, Zarkat concluded, we lose approximately 15 fighters. Yet their resistance grows stronger instead of weaker. The council chamber remained silent when he finished. For the first time, they were beginning to understand what they faced. Major Harper's team moved silently through the night toward the alien weapons facility. They had studied the patrol patterns for days. Rick Gomez led the way, having learned more about hegemony security protocols than anyone else on Earth. Wait, Rick whispered, raising his hand. The whole team froze. 2 alien guards appeared around a corner, their forearms holding energy weapons. Rick motioned to 2 soldiers carrying bows, primitive weapons that had proven surprisingly effective against alien shields. The arrows flew silently, finding gaps in the guards' armor where their forearms joined their torsos. Move quickly, Lisa ordered. We have 15 minutes before the next patrol. Inside the facility, they found what human intelligence had promised, rows of Earth weapons, rifles, machine guns, even tanks, being modified with alien technology. They're adapting too, Rick said grimly, adding their energy tech to our weapons. Then we take it all, Lisa replied. Everything we can carry and rig the rest to explode. As her team worked, Lisa noticed Rick staring at something in the corner of the warehouse. She joined him and saw what had caught his attention, a sleek craft about the size of a small bus. What is it? She asked. A shuttlecraft. Short-range space transport. Rick's eyes gleamed. Lisa, this could get us to their ships in orbit. Lisa understood immediately. You're thinking we take the fight to them. Exactly. They never expect us to strike back in space. Their orbital defenses are focused outward, not inward. A plan began forming in Lisa's mind. A dangerous plan, but one that might change the course of the war. First, let's finish this mission, she said. Then we talk to command about your shuttle. On the Hegemony command ship, Admiral Kenvos received news of the weapons facility raid with barely contained fury. How did they penetrate our defenses? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral, an officer replied. Security protocols were followed, but the humans somehow knew our patrol patterns. Commander Zarkat, who had returned from the council meeting hours earlier, watched from the side of the command center. He had warned them about human adaptability, but the Admiral still refused to fully accept the reality of their situation. Admiral, Zarkat said, there's something else you should know. The Council is considering withdrawing all forces from Earth. Kenvos turned, his three eyes widening in shock. Impossible. We've never abandoned an incorporation. This is different. The casualties are beyond acceptable parameters. The Council fear the humans might acquire our technology and become an even greater threat. So they're finally listening to you, Kenvos said bitterly. Too late, I fear. Zarkat moved to the tactical display. My analysis suggests the humans are planning something bigger. These raids are too coordinated, too precise. They're building toward something. As if in response to his words, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the tactical display, a small craft appeared rising from Earth's surface. Impossible, Kenvos whispered. They don't have space capability. They do now, Zarkat replied grimly. They've captured one of our shuttles. The humans were coming to them. The war for Earth was entering a new phase, and Commander Zarkat suspected it would be the bloodiest yet. The stolen shuttle moved silently through space. Inside, Major Lisa Harper, Lieutenant Rick Gomez, and 8 elite soldiers checked their equipment. They wore modified hegemony environmental suits captured in earlier battles. 5 minutes to intercept, Rick said, piloting the craft toward a hegemony supply ship. During his captivity, he had learned enough about alien vessels to identify the weakest ones. Lisa looked at her team. Remember the plan. We take the ship intact. We need its weapons and its faster-than-light drive. 1 year after first contact, the full Galactic Council gathered in an emergency session. The mood was grim. Admiral Kenvos was dead, killed when humans successfully destroyed his command ship. 3 hegemony fleets had been decimated. Commander Zarkat, now promoted to senior military advisor, stood before them. He no longer felt satisfaction at being proven right. The cost had been too high. The situation is unprecedented, he told the council. The humans have not only repelled our invasion, but have captured enough of our technology to build their own spacecraft. They are now attacking hegemony outposts beyond their solar system. How is this possible? Demanded Counselor Vex Till, his scaled face pale with shock. They were pre-FTL less than a year ago. They learn quickly, Zarkat replied. They reverse-engineered our technology, but more importantly, they fight differently than any species we've encountered. They accept casualties that would be unthinkable to us if it achieves their objectives. High Counselor Nexblix's blue glow had dimmed with concern. What are their objectives now? Based on their attack patterns, they seem focused on capturing more ships and technology. They're building a fleet. Zarkat paused. And they've transmitted a message. They wish to address the council. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some counselors objected, but curiosity won out. Nexblix nodded, and a large screen activated. The face that appeared belonged to a human female. Her dark hair pulled back tightly, her expression serious but not hostile. I am Admiral Catherine Bell of the Earth Alliance vessel Defiance, she said. My government has authorized me to present terms for ending this conflict. Terms? Vex Till sputtered. They dictate terms to us? Admiral Bell continued as if she hadn't heard the interruption. Our terms are simple. First, the Galactic Council will recognize Earth's full sovereignty and independence. Second, you will pay reparations for the unprovoked invasion of our world. Third, you will acknowledge our right to colonize unclaimed systems within 50 light-years of Sol. She paused, letting her words sink in. In return, we will cease all hostilities against hegemony forces and outposts. Or, Nexblix asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Or we continue this war. Our analysis of captured hegemony data suggests your society is not structured for prolonged conflict. Ours is. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Can they reach the council headquarters? New Lith finally asked. Yes, Zarkat answered. They've captured enough FTL-capable ships. Our intelligence indicates they're assembling a fleet near their system's edge even now. How many ships? At least 30. Small by our standards, but... Zarkat's mandibles clicked nervously. They've modified them, removed safety protocols, increased weapons power beyond recommended limits, and their tactics are unpredictable. The council erupted into fierce debate. Some species demanded deploying planet-killer weapons to eliminate the human threat completely. Others argued for containment strategies to isolate Earth from the rest of the galaxy. A small faction pushed for accepting the human terms, arguing that the cost of continued war would be too high. As they argued, Zarkat received an urgent message. He interrupted the debate, his voice cutting through the noise. Counselors, I've just received word that the human fleet has arrived. They're holding position just outside our defense perimeter. On the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance, Admiral Catherine Bell stood calmly as her small but powerful fleet approached the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's headquarters. Beside her stood Major Lisa Harper, now her second-in-command, and Lieutenant Rick Gomez, whose knowledge of alien technology had proven invaluable. Their defenses are formidable, Rick observed, studying the tactical display. But they're designed to repel conventional attacks. They never expected enemies to sacrifice ships as battering rams. Catherine nodded grimly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. She turned to Lisa. Status of the ground teams? Ready, Admiral. If diplomacy fails, they can deploy within minutes. Catherine had fought her way up from the chaos of the initial invasion to command humanity's first true space fleet. She understood that this moment would define Earth's place in the galaxy for generations. Open a channel, she ordered. In the council chamber, Zarkat watched the tactical display with growing anxiety. The human ships were arranging themselves in an attack formation he had never seen before. Some appeared to be preparing for ramming maneuvers that would be suicidal, but potentially devastating against the station's shields. The humans are hailing us again, an aide reported. Admiral Bell's face reappeared on the screen. Your defense systems are impressive, she said calmly, but you should know that we've studied them carefully. We can breach them. The question is whether that will be necessary. Nexblix moved forward. The council is still deliberating your proposal. I understand. Deliberation takes time, but understand this. Every human on every ship in my fleet has volunteered for a one-way mission if necessary. We will have our independence. The only question is how many more lives will be lost before you accept that reality. Zarkat stepped forward. If I may address the human admiral. Nexblix nodded, and Zarkat faced the screen. Admiral Bell, I am Commander Zarkat. I tried to warn the Council about humanity's capabilities before this conflict began. They did not listen. Many have died unnecessarily as a result. Catherine Bell's expression softened slightly. We know of you, Commander. Lieutenant Gomez remembers. You from his captivity. You were the one who understood us. Not completely, but better than most. Zarkat turned to the Council. Honorable members, I urge you to accept the human terms. This is a species that does not know how to surrender. They will fight until either they are extinct or they are free. And if we choose the path of continued war, I am not confident of our victory. The chamber fell silent again. Then, slowly, Nexblix nodded. "We will vote," she said. The result was close, but clear, 68 to 59, with the remaining councilors abstaining. The council would accept the human terms. As news of the decision spread, across Earth, celebrations erupted. Streets filled with people cheering, crying, embracing. Humanity had survived its first contact with alien life and emerged not just intact, but stronger, united as never before. In a quiet ceremony aboard the Defiance, Lieutenant Rick Gomez, Major Lisa Harper, and Admiral Catherine Bell were commissioned as Earth's first ambassadors to the galactic community. Their mission: ensure no alien power ever again mistook humanity's determination for weakness. And in his private quarters on the council station, Commander Zarkat wrote in his personal log, "Today marks a new era for the galaxy. The humans have joined the interstellar community not as subjects but as equals. I fear and hope for what this will mean for all of us. Their capacity for war is matched only by their capacity for adaptation and growth. If we are wise, we will learn from them, as much as they learn from us. If we are foolish, we have already seen the consequences.